All
right, Mr. and Mrs. Cameron, I brought you back in. I'm going to advise you of your rights as tenants in landlord-tenant proceeding.
Okay.
The title of your case is Scott and Annette Larkins versus Thomas and Martha Cameron. It's a property at 120 West Armitage Street in Three Rivers. The file number is 23320. They are asking you to move, and they served a notice to quit on you on February 1st. As a defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including a termination of tenancy, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to obtain counsel for representation in this matter. If you cannot afford an attorney, a legal aid attorney may be available to help you. I did send you that information on how to contact legal aid. You have a right to a trial by a jury or by the court. If the action is for non-payment of rent, which this is not, we would take a different course of action. If the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Service, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If both parties are agreeable to mediation, the court can help set that up if you contact the court. If you do reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above, but have the following additional rights. The judgment may not be enforced until 3 business days have passed. You could move to set aside this judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set for a landlord-tenant hearing. However, if the judge did not find in your favor, the original judgment would stand. Mr. Larkins and his manager have just checked in. The Camerons are here a little early and the 115 case didn't show up. So I went ahead and advised them of their rights so we can just get right to it. Mr. and Mrs. Cameron, your landlord wants you to move. What's your position?
Well, you know, Keystone was supposed to help us. When they said they were going to, they told both me and the landlord they were going to pay 3 months back, 3 months ahead. We had an agreement as far as the rest of it went. Keystone didn't hold up their end of the bargain. We had a meeting with them. I had to leave the office. I was so flabbergasted when they said they weren't going to pay. Why would they have told us that and not do it? That's just all I was wondering about it.
Then they got so behind, we got so behind that there's no way to catch us up.
Well, it doesn't look like the rent's going to get paid. He's not even asking you to pay the rent. He's just asking you to move. They served a notice to quit on you February 1st, gave you until March 1st. Now it's April 12th. But if they're not looking at this point for rent, they just want you to move.
Well, Judge, I spoke with Scott earlier. I've been approved for a housing voucher. I don't know what he discussed with his office manager, but that's a possible conclusion. I am going to get on the phone with Keystone as well after this meeting.
Well, the law requires that I adjourn this matter for at least 7 days. This is an unusual day. You don't know because you don't come much. We don't usually do landlord-tenant cases on Wednesday, but I'm going to be going on a trip and I don't want to get too far behind.
Sure.
Mr. Larkins, I apologize, but the next available landlord-tenant date, let me see what this is. Is 10:30 on Friday, April 28th.
All right. (10:30 a.m.)
Yes.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
that will give you 16 days to see whether you can work something out. When you come
Okay.
next time, don't wear a sleeveless
Oh, I
shirt.
apologize.
Come as though you were coming to a court hearing and
No
treat the
problem.
matter with some respect.
I
But
apologize.
if you and Mr. Larkins can work something out, great. If not, you're gonna get 10 days from April 28th to move out.
Okay.
Um,
I'm in
There
agreement
was a
with that.
period during COVID where a lot of people were getting their rent paid by Keystone or some other agency. And
Mhm.
that money is mostly all gone. So we're back to the period of either pay your rent or move.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
right now, every month you're staying there, he's losing more money.
Mhm.
He's got somebody ready and willing to move in, $860 per month. So, Mr. Larkins, have you talked to anybody from Keystone or any other agency, or Kristen, have you?
Honor, we're not even taking any money from Keystone on a regular basis anymore because like on this case,
It's so
they-
disjointed, yes.
they told us they were gonna pay it and then they didn't, they honestly, I mean, I feel for them too, because they did say they're gonna pay it and they didn't.
They also said that Thomas and Martha didn't finish their end of paperwork and that they tried contacting them and weren't successful.
So, I mean, they owe us a bunch of money from other things too, so.
All right, well, then you may well plan on moving, but unfortunately, I have to go 16 days rather than 7. So that's the best I've got. Friday, April 28th at 10:30. It will be by Zoom like this, wearing appropriate clothing.
You
All
got
right,
it. I apologize
I'll
again.
see you then. All right, thank you.
We'll see
Thank
you then.
Mr. Lyon. All right, I'm sorry about the delay.
No problem. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, good morning.
Still morning. Good morning.
How you doing, Your Honor?
Well, we've had a very busy morning. We cleared all the decks just for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
But this is entitled Scott and Annette Larkins versus Thomas Kembron. It is set for 10:30. It is 10:30. We were here last time. It was originally a non-payment of rent. Keystone was gonna help him and it didn't ever work out, so it became a termination of tenancy. Continued the matter until this morning. What's the current status?
As far as I know, we haven't heard anything from them.
From him or Keystone?
Correct.
All right. Caitlin, is he still there?
He is.
All right. Well, he's not here. He's not in one of these rooms.
They called us and they said they weren't sure they were gonna be able to make it today, so.
All right. Apparently it's not that important to him. All right, he's got 10 days to move. Find by default that he is subject to termination of tenancy on or after May the 8th. No money judgment is entered. He has May 8th to appeal. I was gonna stall, but the defendant said he didn't think he would be here. Does he plan to move?
They're looking for somewhere else to go. At this point, as much as they owe, Keystone or any other is not gonna be able to pay that amount. So I
Okay.
think they're just trying to find somewhere.
Well, he's got 10 days to do it, or he's subject to being evicted. All right, thank you. We've had a very busy morning with hardly any defaults, so we just got one that maybe helped us a little caught up. All right, you guys are off the hook. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Steger,
Yes,
as a
sir.
defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including non-payment of rent, which is what this is, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to a trial by a jury or by the court. If the action is for non-payment of rent, and if you are eligible for any emergency housing assistance from Keystone or Veterans or other program, you may not need a judgment to receive that assistance. The summons and complaint could be sufficient. You've already received that, although some parties disagree with that, but so we're advised to tell people, and you do have the summons and complaint. If the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Services, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If both parties are agreeable to mediation, you can contact the court and we can set that up. If you do reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above and have the following additional rights. The judgment may not be enforced until 3 business days had passed. You could move to set aside the judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set for a landlord-tenant hearing. However, if the judge did not find in your favor, the original judgment would stand. Mr. Matthew Davidson is now here on behalf of Maple Crest Apartments, and your manager, C. Lynn Johnson, is also here. This is filed as a demand for non-payment of rent. Your rent is $630 per month. The time of filing, it was $23.80. Mr. Davidson or Ms. Johnson, can you tell me what the current arrearage is?
$2,868.
That's through April?
Correct.
All right, if we add in the $55 filing fee, the $40.14 service fee, and the $75 statutory attorney fee, that's $170.14 plus 2,868 equals $3,038.14. Mr. Steger, what's your intention? Do you wish to stay there or do you plan to move?
Well, actually, I have the means to pay the bill. However,
Very good.
I was working for the apartment complex and they fired me. Prior to that, I had to sign this paper that said if I got fired, I had to move out. So I was advised not to pay the bill in case I find another place to live.
All right, so what's your plan? Do you wish to stay there?
I would like to, yes.
Well, if you pay the rent, I guess if you work there, your rent was probably reduced or comped or something. When was your employment terminated?
February 26th.
All right, so this would be March's rent, April's rent, and I'm not sure what else. Miss Johnson, was his rent part of his compensation, or was he simply paid a wage and then he paid his rent?
He received a wage and he got a discount on his rent. but we haven't received a rent payment from him since October. And I show that his termination date was January 25th, not February.
Okay.
I don't know if that's correct, but that's what I show on his ledger.
All right, well, I'm not sure why he hasn't paid since October, but through April, you owe $3,038.14. Now, the law requires that I adjourn this. And Matt, I apologize. I'm going on a trip. And
Well, the easy solution to that is that we'll just all come down to wherever you are and join you there for the hearing next week.
well, okay, we could try it. How about if we continue it to Friday, April 28th at 9:40? That's farther than I would like. It's 16 days rather than 7, but it's the next available date that I have for this. So Mr. Steger, you have until April 28th, this point, to pay the rent or move out. If you don't move out, we'll have a hearing on April 28th, at which time I would give you 10 days to move, which would take us into the May rental period. So if you have the money to pay the rent and you simply pay it, we don't need to come back for a hearing on April 28th. If you wish to contest the matter further, we can deal with it on April 28th at 9:40. But let me repeat, if you do pay the rent, we don't need to come back. Now, also, if you do move, you need to turn in the keys and give your forwarding address in writing within 4 days of your moving. And if you move, we don't need to come back either. But if you're still there, you haven't paid the rent, you haven't moved, we will address the matter further on April 28th at 9:40. Do you have any questions?
No, sir, clear.
All right, stay in contact with your manager, Ms. Johnson. And if I don't see you, that's fine with me. And it means you either paid the rent or moved. If you don't, we'll deal with it at that time. All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr.
Thank you,
Director.
Your Honor.
Hey,
Yes, thank you, Lynn.
pretty good.
Maple Crest Apartments versus Kim Steger. Mr. Matthew Davidson is here on behalf of the complex. The defendant is not here. The manager, C. Lynn Johnson, has also joined us. Mr. Davidson, what's the status here?
We're looking for the order of possession, and I have numbers when you're ready, Your Honor.
All right, we determined through April, the rent was $28.68. Court costs $170.14 for a total of $3,038.14. Is that still accurate?
Well, I had court costs of 55 to file and 40 and 14 for service. So I had 95.14, but I'm not sure it matters.
Well, plus the $75 statutory attorney fee gives us
Correct.
$170.14. So the numbers are the same.
I'll go with that. Yes. And 630 becomes available on May 1st. So if you would just please write at the bottom that it has to be current to the date of payment, that would be helpful.
All right, I'll leave it at that. Meg Bauer doesn't believe I have the authority to add the second month in there. I disagree with that. She's going to appeal it. And even though I've done it for her 12 times, see what Judge Stutzman thinks about it. Ms. Johnson, is Mr. Steger still there?
Yes, he is. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, I will write through April. Rent is $2,868. $170.14 in court costs for a total of $3,038.14. By default, the defendant has 10 days from today, which would be April 8th,
And
May 8th, excuse me.
that worked for you?
No money judgment issued at this time. Partial payment will not prevent the writ of eviction, and the defendant shall be liable for money damages if additional rent is owed, or there is damage to the property. I normally would put in the second month, but he's not here and we'll just leave it as it is. I did need a default, Matthew, to get caught up, so thank you. He hasn't paid any rent since last October. At this point, he just can't afford to live there. Anything further?
No, thank you, Your Honor, from the St. John's Conference Center in Plymouth,
Yeah, I see that. At which conference are you at?
the no fault.
Okay, well, all right. Get back to work. Thank you.
Thank you,
Ms.
Your Honor.
Johnson, or
Thanks,
Ms.
Lynn.
Well, he can wait. He's 50 minutes, 20 minutes late and he's got a hat on and I can't hear him. Mr. Steger, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Would you please take off your hat?
Beg your pardon?
Would you remove your hat? We're in a court proceeding. All right, you're late to your own party. This matter was set for 9:40. And Mr. Davidson was here and your manager was here and you weren't. So we made a ruling. You owe $2,868 of rent through April. And then additional rent for May. And the court costs of $170.14. You owe $3,038.14 plus May's rent by May 8th, or you're subject to being evicted. You haven't paid any rent since October, and they want you to either pay the rent or move. Have you made any provision to move?
No, I haven't. I was waiting to go to court today because the total amount is incorrect because I paid.
Well, you didn't show up for the hearing, so I entered a default. You can move to set it aside, or you can pay the rent, or you can move. I don't have the luxury of making the attorneys wait 25 minutes for the defendant to show up when I've got 33 cases all set. So you're late for your own hearing. That's my ruling. You'll get a copy of it in the mail soon. If you wish to move to set it aside, you can do that within 10 days. Otherwise, you should prepare to move by May the 8th. We don't have time for people to show up when they feel like it. Let's talk about your case.